Can you hear me clearly? Okay. So this is the last lecture of the continuation of previous lecture. We were discussing shock, and you know the definition, different types of shock. And today we will discuss cardiogenic shock, neurogenic shock, and with this we will close this chapter. So cardiogenic shock, if you remember my previous topics, lectures, um, you might have remembered about what is cardiac output and what is heart rate, and shock depends upon the amount of the volume which is poured out by the heart. So cardiogenic shock, as the name indicating, that cardiogenic means related to the heart. So this cardiogenic shock could be due to poor myocardial contractility. Cardiac heart is consists of cardiac muscles, and the total output of the heart, it depends upon the venous pressure and the input by the inferior vena cava into the right atrium. Then it goes into the right ventricle. From the ventricle, this is pumped out towards the heart for cleaning, and again by four pulmonary arteries it enters into the left ventricle. So high venous pressure, when there is high venous pressure, as in cases of hypertension, it leads to fluid extravasation, and when there is extra fluid, when there is more pressure in the venous system, it leads to pouring out of the fluid outside the vessels. And when the fluid is poured out of the vessels, you know the condition is called edema. There is swelling and there is puffiness at different areas of the body, especially the dependent areas. Then when there is high blood pressure, so high blood pressure means then that the pressure in the veins is high, and there is poor perfusion of the organs. So this poor perfusion is due to the reduced blood supply towards the organs. And you know, our body systems, they are under the control of sympathetic and parasympathetic activity. So when there is sympathetic activity is responsible for vasoconstriction, and these two systems, sympathetic and parasympathetic, they run side by side. So one parallels the other. So when there is increased sympathetic overactivity, this leads to vasoconstriction, and this in order to maintain the blood pressure. So blood pressure is cardiac muscles, they are supplied by the sympathetic and parasympathetic nerve fibers, and these sympathetic nerve fibers, they are responsible for vasoconstriction, and this vasoconstriction will maintain the blood pressure, because I told you that high pressure in the vessels, it lead to fluid extravasation, and this condition is called edema. And when there is fluid extravasation, poor cardiac output, so heart itself, which was receiving, if you remember my previous lecture, that heart itself receives 14% of the cardiac output. Kidneys are receiving the highest ratio, 22%. So due to reduced blood supply, there is edema, and the heart cardiac muscles, they do not get the sufficient amount of nutrition by its own blood supply. So it goes into cardiogenic shock. So we define cardiogenic shock. This is a condition in which heart suddenly cannot pump enough blood to meet your body's need. So you got my point, that heart cannot receive that amount of nutrition which it should be. So this is called cardiogenic shock, and the condition is most often caused by severe heart attack, but not in every case, because most of the people, some of the people, they do not have the collaterals. So in case of cardiogenic shock is lethal for those people who do not have the collaterals in their heart blood supply. So this do not happen in everybody, but this condition is called cardiogenic shock. The pathophysiology, why this so happens. So these are number of factors responsible for reducing the blood flow towards the heart. These are atheromas, then there is platelet aggregation. Now atheromatous plaques, they are formed by, when there is disturbance in the function of the liver, because all the clotting factors, bleeding factors, they are being formed by the liver. So anything which is disturbing the liver, it will also affect the rest of the body. So there are atheromatous plaques, and these are formed by the blood coagulation, then platelet aggregation, then compromised blood supply to the area. If there is vasoconstriction of that area which is supplying the heart muscle, or there is atheromas, then unstable angina, insufficient supply of oxygen and blood in the heart vessels. Then you feel heaviness and constriction over the myocardic area. ST elevation in the ECG. ECG is electrocardiogram, and there are PQRS complex. PQRST. P denotes the atrial contraction, and QRS is the for ventricle, and T is the if there is ST elevation, you might have seen the ECG of normal healthy people. So there is a normal pattern of ECG, and if it gets disturbed by any of the cause above, so there is elevation of the ST segment. Then ischemia means reduced blood supply and myocardial infarction. These are the number of causes which leads towards cardiogenic shock. So we have got 6-7 causes, 8 causes: atheromas, platelet aggregation, compromised blood supply to the area, unstable angina, heaviness and constriction. Then there is ST elevation, ischemia, and myocardial infarction. These are the 8 causes which are leading towards the cardiogenic shock. Now, treatment of this shock, although you are not concerned with the treatment, but at this level, but to give you a general idea, how do we treat these patients? Early thrombolysis. Thrombolysis means thrombi are broken down by giving them blood thinners, then hypotension. Their high blood pressure is controlled by antihypertensive medications. If there is any valve problem, valve is rigid or calcified, so valve replacement surgery is done. Then dysrhythmias are corrected, like when there was ST elevation, so that was corrected. Medications like inotropes that increase cardiac contractility, oxygen supply in case of ischemia, strict fluid restriction, because no fluids are given as heart is already overloaded, or there is disturbance of the fluid balance, so fluids are restricted. Then reduce after load is first line of treatment. Vasodilators are given, diuretics are given to excrete the extra fluid which is overloaded. And dopamine is a doctor for cardiogenic shock. Dopamine, this is, dopamine is adrenaline like drug, and this is given, and this is life saving drug in case of cardiogenic shock. So dopamine is given directly, intracardiac injection is given directly from the front area into the heart. So this is the line of treatment. You know that line of treatment is according to the cause. You see the cause and you will remove that cause. So this is becomes easier for you to memorize that how we treat, there is a thrombosis, emboli formation, so we will break them. If there is hypertension, we will reduce the blood pressure. If there is any valve problem, so we will replace the valve. Arrhythmias are controlled. Then the excessive fluid intake is restricted. Then diuretics are given to reduce the overburdening of water, and vasodilators are given, and dopamine is the master of all. So next is the neurogenic shock. Neurogenic, as the name itself explains, neurogenic, this is a distribution type of shock resulting in low blood flow pressure, occasionally with a slow heart rate. Neurogenic, in which the nerves are involved. So it results in slow heart rate, and this is attributed to the disruption of the autonomic pathway within the spinal cord. It can occur after damage to central nervous system, such as spinal cord injury, if a person falls from the height, or accidentally you fall at your back. So there is a spinal cord injury, and it leads to low blood pressure, and this is due to decreased systemic vascular resistance, resulting in pooling of blood within the extremities and lacking sympathetic tone. So because sympathetic nervous system, this is responsible for toning up your muscular area of the vessels. So this is poor, and the slowed heart rate, it results from unopposed vagal activity and has been found to be exacerbated by hypoxia and endobronchial suction. So when there is low heart rate, so low heart rate means that blood cardiac output is not sufficient, so there is hypoxia, and lungs will not get the proper blood supply. So the consequences will lead to neurogenic shock. Neurogenic shock can be a potentially devastating complication leading to organ dysfunction, because in neurogenic shock, sympathetic nervous system is involved. There is pooling of blood, and within the extremities, sympathetic tone is lacking, low blood pressure. So due to low blood pressure, the oxygen supply is low, and there is also organ dysfunction, and even death can result, because this neurogenic shock, there is blood supply is not sufficiently approaching towards area. So this will disturb your neurons as well, and this is it can lead to death. So this is neurogenic. This is related to the nerves, because nerves, due to any neurogenic shock, when you hear some bad news, or by falling injuries, when there is injury to the spinal cord. So these all are the causes for neurogenic shock. Management is same, focus on maintaining the blood pressure, and whenever you find the blood pressure is falling, the first and most immediate action is you raise the legs. You raise the level of the legs above the head level by putting the patient in supine position, You raise the levels of the legs, and you massage the palms and soles. These are the common things which are done in cases of emergency. Then IV fluids are given to maintain the blood volume. Obviously, meanwhile you are trying to maintain the blood pressure of the patient. You arrange for some ambulance, or you take the patient to the hospital. So IV fluid is maintained immediately. Atropine is given, because atropine, it blocks the parasympathetic activity, because we know that in neurogenic shock, sympathetic activity is poor and parasympathetic activity is working more efficiently. So atropine, it blocks the parasympathetic nervous system. So what will happen? The sympathetic system will overcome, and the patient will maintain its normal blood pressure. So, what is syncope? Syncope is another term which is used. This is the sudden transient loss of consciousness and postural tone with spontaneous recovery. So, loss of consciousness occurs within 10 seconds of hypoperfusion of the reticular activating system in the midbrain. And this is the reticular activating system. This is the area which is lying in the midbrain. If you have a memory of your cerebral cortex, so this is the area which is lying in between the cerebri. So this is the system which is controlling the conscious level of everybody. Now, how does the syncope takes place? These are mediated by neurally mediated, which is called the vasovagal postural orthostatic hypotension. The example, one of the example is after a prolonged standing, when you are standing for a long period of time. Most of the people, they cannot cope with this prolonged standing, so they fall. There is darkening in front of the eyes, and you fall down. So this is the vasovagal postural orthostatic condition, and this is accompanied by tachycardia. This is called POTS syndrome, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And this is called orthostatic hypotension. This is called POTS syndrome, orthostatic hypotension, and this is mediated by the vasovagal shock. This is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And number 2 is situational. It could be due to pains. Most of the people, especially girls, they cannot bear extreme amount of pain, so they go into hypotension. So due to very intense pain, most of the patients, they go into shock. So this is postprandial state due to stress or emotion. There is dehydration, painful stimulus for sneeze, micturition, defecation. Most of the children, when they have constipation, they could not pass their stool, so they are especially toddlers, they go into syncope. So during hair brushing, when there is extreme pain, hyperventilation, blood, cold liquid, stretching, these are all the factors which are responsible for the situational syncope. Number 3 is cardiac syncope. This is related to bradycardia, tachycardia, structural heart disease, and myocardial dysfunction. Number 4 is neurological syncope, in which the factors which are responsible are seizures, migraines, brain tumors, arteriovenous malformation, then cerebrovascular occlusive diseases. They come under the heading of neurological syncope. Then psychogenic syncope is conversion disorders, depressive disorders, anxiety, attention-seeking behavior, and Munchausen syndrome. This is another psychological disorder. Then other conditions which are responsible for syncope are alcohol intake of drugs, anorexia, low amount of food is taken, hypoglycemia, anemia, syncope, pregnancy, then hyperventilation, breath holding condition, failure of ventilation, venous return. So these are the different types of syncope. You got this point, class? Did you get this point? These are the 5 types of syncope. Okay, so number 1 is okay. Thank you. So these are the syncope conditions: reflex, neural, which is related to neurons; situational syncope, cardiac, neurological, psychological, psychogenic, and other conditions. So these are 5 types of syncope which we come across. So what are the long-term therapy for vasovagal syncope? But we do type of therapy is preload agents. Obviously, the venous return is low. So preloading agents like fluid, salt, compression. I told you the compression in the lower limb. If you remember the picture of a boy which I showed you in my last lecture, that there was a compressing suit which was a guy was wearing that suit in the lower limb to increase the blood pressure. Then different types of steroids are given. So these all things, they increase the preload of the heart. Preload agents, vasoconstrictors. So they are vasoconstrictors. Then alpha-1 adrenergic agonists like epinephrine, ephedrine, and midodrine, adenosine blockers, theophylline. These are beta-2 adrenergic blocking agents. Propranolol is the chemical name, commercial name. These are the propranolol is the commercial name, and this is beta-2 adrenergic blocker. Then number 2 is these are all the preload agent vasoconstriction. So anticholinergic drugs, in the anticholinergic system, they comes the scopolamine, propanthyline, disopyramide, hyoscyamine. These are the anticholinergic agents. Then some negative cardiac inotropes like beta-1 adrenergic blocker, disopyramide, serotonin, serotonergic reuptake blockers, then alpha-2 adrenergic agonist, central nervous system like phentermine, methylphenidate, brainstem suppressant. These are the names of the drugs which act on the negative cardiac output central agents. Then certain mechanical devices like pacemaker for the prevention of bradycardia. You might have heard this pacemaker. So these are the conditions. Last one is septic shock. This is the last type of shock. So severe sepsis in case of any bacterial or viral infection, when this is not being treated by anyone, so the patient goes into a state of septic shock. So there is phase 1 is clotting process is activated. There are microthrombi formation. Then microcirculatory blood is slowed. And what happens, there is thrombosis in the microvessels. Microvessels in any organ like brain, skin, kidneys, GIT, lungs. So the patient goes into acute respiratory distress syndrome. This is the phase 1. And in phase 2, there is consumption of coagulation factors, hyperactivation of the fibrinolysis, inactivation of fibrinogen and other factors. So these all, when there is decreased number of production of the coagulation factors and fibrinolytic agents are more active, and there is inactivation of fibrinogen and other factors. You know, fibrinogen, it plays an important role in the um, blood circulation and blood coagulation in different areas. So when these are low, what happens, there is increased in the bleeding tendency. So the brain, skin, kidneys, in the kidneys there will be hematuria, in the skin there will be hemorrhagics, purpuras, different areas, and brain there is hemorrhage, gastrointestinal bleeding in the form of hematemesis. Hematemesis is blood coming out from the mouth, and melena is black blood stool, oral and nasal cavities, then gums bleeding, and epistaxis. So every area is going to start bleed. So because of the deficiency of the coagulating factors, liver is also disturbed. There is hypofunctioning, microthrombi formation, microvessels of each organ, it is involved. So this is called the septic shock. This condition is called septic shock, and it comes in two phases, phase 1 and phase 2. So this is the picture which is showing, you can understand well by keeping this picture into your mind, that if this condition happens in the CNS, what will happen? There is confusion, delirium, altered consciousness, cognitive loss. You cannot recognize anyone. When it comes in the lungs, there is edema, diffuse alveolar damage, acute lung injury, and this is called airway ARDS, respiratory airway respiratory acute respiratory distress syndrome, ARDS. So these all conditions, they lead to acute respiratory distress syndrome. Then if when it involves CVS, cardiovascular system, there is ischemia, there is dilative failure. Then when it involves the liver, there is steatosis, fat deposition, cholestasis, centriacinar necrosis. The liver itself will not get the sufficient amount of blood supply. So when this condition happens in the pancreas, there is ischemias everywhere. Ischemia, decreased insulin production. Obviously, every cell is functioning after getting its nutrition in the form of blood. When the blood is not there, so insulin will not be produced. There is hyperglycemia. Insulin is controlling the glucose level in the body. Then in adrenals, there is hemorrhage, there is lipid depletion. In the kidneys, there is edema and acute tubular necrosis. So this all condition will lead into end organ damage in case of sepsis. So this is a very bad condition, and the prognosis is poor. There is another term in your book, toxic shock syndrome. So toxic shock syndrome is, there are few signs and symptoms. These are high fever, sudden onset of high fever, and there is hypotension, low blood pressure, diarrhea, vomiting. Patient is suffering from toxic shock syndrome. It develops as a rash all around the body. It looks like as the sunburn rash, so especially on the palms and sole of the foot. Then there is disorientation, muscular pains, redness in the eyes, mouth and throat, headache, seizure. So these are all the conditions due to, toxic, I told you in the last slide, toxic shock syndrome. So because this is affecting the microvascular area of the body, so microvascular thrombi, coagulation, disturbance in the clotting factors. So these all conditions will lead to toxic shock syndrome. Treatment is eradicate the number one, the source, eradicate the source. If there is any type of infection like bacterial, viral, so immediately start. And the high grade fever itself is indicating that there is a severe sort of infection. So what should we do? Number one is without any doubt, you should start the antibiotic, fourth generation antibiotic, then early goal directed towards the therapy and directed towards the management in first 6 hours. CVP line is maintained. CVP line, this line is maintained, and this line is maintained below the clavicle. There is cannula is passed, 8 to 12 millimeter pressure, and mercury pressure is attained, and normal saline is given. Oxygen saturation is maintained 65 up to above 70%, and then the main target is to increase the afterload, and norepinephrine is the first line of treatment. It will increase the sympathetic activity of the system. So obviously the main line of treatment is you treat the infection, you increase the cardiac output, maintain the cardiac output. Vital signs like pulse, blood pressure, heart rate, respiratory rate, these should be okay. Your fluid output, urine output should be maintained by inserting a catheter. These are the main points which anybody who comes in the emergency with in state of shock, these are the things which should be done. Oxygen is maintained. So when you will come in the wards, and you will come to know that how the patient is managed in cases of emergency. So these are the emergency ways. These are the different types of drugs which are commonly used in case of shock, like phenylephrine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, dopamine. I told you dopamine is the doctor in case of shock. Dobutamine is another form of dopamine, isoproterenol, and these are different names given to the. And what do they do? Phenylephrine in common use in septic shock, neurogenic shock. Norepinephrine in case of septic shock. Epinephrine in case of anaphylaxis of septic shock. Then dopamine in those patients who come with oliguria, decreased amount of urine. So dopamine is very good drug for preserving the renal sufficiency. Septic shock and cardiogenic shock. Then dobutamine in cases of cardiogenic shock. Bradycardia, isoproterenol in case of bradycardia due to heart blocks, and milrinone. This is cardiogenic shock, and in those who do not respond to dobutamine. So these are different types of drugs in different types of shocks. So these are the drugs, and these are the common uses of these drugs. So progressive irreversible injury, organ involved. So what is the management of all these syndromes? These are the progressive irreversible injury. Organ involves our kidney, liver, lungs, GIT, all the vital organs of the body. And in ill patients, and in the lungs, right ventricular failure, liver, kidney. Mortality is higher if the kidney and lungs are involved, and occurs in critically ill patients after severe trauma, burns, acute pancreatitis, bleeding, sepsis, diabetics, smokers, alcoholics, and in cases of cirrhosis, malnutrition, patients on steroids and cytotoxic drugs. So these are the treatments which are considered people who come with these conditions. So this was all about the shock. So please, there is plenty of time. We have 20 minutes left, 25 minutes left. You can ask me question, or if you have any confusion regarding this topic. This is very easy, and although it consisted of three lectures, but it needs to be explained like this. Reference, which reference? Uh, Beta, which reference? You will read this chapter topic from your Robbins. I made a detail of this chapter because to make you understand what are different types of shocks, because in your book this is a very short form, 2 pages I think. There are 2 pages in your book, and if you have understood my, will they ask exam how to treat type of shocks? No, treatment is not included in your course. I just talked about the treatment to give you a general idea how we deal with these patients. Treatment is not included in your exam. So you will be asked about pathophysiology, causes, types of shock, definition of shock, and different types of shock. What is their pathophysiology? This is important. Treatment is not included in your exam. Any other question? Shasmin, boys, where are the boys? Boys are not there. Are they sleeping? Any other question, boys? Boys, have you got the idea of shock? This is very important topic. Shock is very important. You might be knowing up till now. Will they ask me how to treat types of shock? Thank you. Can you show slide with 5 different types of shock again? Okay. This, I was talking about this picture, pressure effect in case of hypertension. Hypertension. This slide was very first topic. Here you are. This is the classification of different types of shock. Is this one you were asking for, Shazmeen? Okay. Oh, sorry. Oh, again. This is their classification, etiology, how do they occur, and underlying pathology. This is in short form to give you an idea, and you can memorize it well. In hypovolemic shock, name is indicating volume is low, blood is losing from somewhere, and blood or fluid is losing from somewhere. So these are the causes. In cardiogenic, I told you, reason lies in the heart. Neurogenic, reason lies in the nerves. Anaphylactic, reason again lies due to antigen antibody reaction. In septic shock, when there is infection. Boys, any other questions from your side? Boys? Any other question, boys? So we can revise this topic today. There are still 20 minutes. I can go on each slide for some seconds. Okay. Shazmeen, are you done with this slide? Okay, should we move on each slide for a few seconds? Then in this way you can revise your topic. Can you please? Yes, I told you for examination point of view, the definition, it's different types, causes, underlying etiology, pathology. These are all important questions which will be asked. Any one of this could be discussed in the exam. This is a small topic in your book, and only one question can come out of this topic, not more than one, because there are so many other topics. So shock is one of them. Shock is important. Okay, should we revise these slides one by one? Are you willing to revise this topic? Starting from the number 1 slide. You can have a look on the slide, okay. Okay, let me start from the first one. I'm going back from this. If you do have any question in between, you can ask me. I will only switch the slide from one to the next, starting from the very earlier slide. This was the, yeah, this is the starting of the shock. This is the definition. If you have any question, please write me down. I'll explain that. Otherwise, you will just read the slide. We will move forward. Okay? These are the parts of the heart. I told you the detail, how the blood supply is maintained from the venous system into the right atrium, right ventricle, pulmonary artery, then again into the left ventricle and left atrium, left ventricle, and into the circulation. Cardiac output, I told you heart rate is a combination of heart rate and stroke volume. And stroke volume is a combination of three things: contractility, preload, afterload. Factors which are affecting heart rate and factors which are affecting the stroke volume. These are the factors. Sorry. So these are the factors which are affecting the stroke volume, and these are the factors which are affecting the heart rate. And you know, this stroke volume and heart rate, they when they come together, they bring the cardiac output. Heart rate affecting factors and stroke volume. These are the percentage of the output, how this is maintained. 15 to 20% in case in resting stage. This is applied to muscle. 80 to 85 is applied to the body organs, and out of 80 to 85, I told you the distribution. I'll show you in the next slide. This is the significance of cardiac output to provide blood to different areas of the body, because this is carrying nutrition, oxygen with it. So this is the distribution of cardiac output, and you know, maximum amount is provided to the kidneys, 22%. 8% other areas, skin receiving 6%, liver 6%, GIT 21%, bones 5%, muscle 15%, brain 14%, heart itself 3%, which is very less amount, and lungs 100%, because lung has dual supply. Should we move forward? This is the same picture, but to make you more convenient. So, definition of shock, you know, this is a threatening situation, and poor perfusion will lead to impaired cellular metabolism, manifested in turn by serious pathophysiological abnormalities. And there is various clinical conditions they come out when these are the references of the books. These definitions are taken from these books. So you will learn only that definition which is given in your Robbins. Phases of shock. Phase 1, 2, 3. 3 is irreversible, 1 is compensatory, and number 2 is uncompensated, but it can be managed. 3 phases of shock. These are the signs and symptoms, how the patient feels like: early signs, compensatory signs, progressive signs, refractory signs. This is the pathophysiology, whole pathophysiology. If you memorize this picture, you will, you can describe it in your own words. What happens in hypovolemia? How does the renal failure develops? What happens with GIT, cytokines, is on. Turn your speaker off. There is a noise. Should we move forward? Are you clear in slide? Okay. I showed you. Please turn your speaker off. Class. This is the total pathophysiology, how inadequate perfusion is leading to which sequence. So this is in short form. What are the things? What is the pH of the body, individual cell? How do they occur? What is aerobic and anaerobic state? What is the influx and efflux? Again, somebody has turned his computer off. Please control your hand. Class. This is underlying cause of different types of shock. Results in front of these. This is a continuous disturbance, noise from your primary survey. I told you this formula. ATLS, airway, A, B, C, D, E, F. Airway, breathing, circulation, disability, neurological, exposure, full vital signs. Primary survey, how do you survey the patient? This is not student, this is from account. Okay. Okay. This is head to toe assessment. How do you assess the patient? I told you dots. This is another deformities, open wound, tenderness, swelling. Dots stand for deformity, open wound, tenderness and swelling. And microvascular, cellular changes. These are the microvascular changes. These are the cellular changes. These are the metabolic changes. You know, changes from every aspect. There is carbohydrate metabolism disturbance, lipid disturbance, fats disturbance. So when each type of metabolic system is disturbed, so what will happen, you know well. Water and electrolyte disturbance, ionic influx and efflux disturbance. So when this system intracellular chemistry of the cell changes, so the overall changes, they come in the form of various manifestations like edema, swelling, coloration of the skin changes. How do the metabolic acidosis develops? What are the morphological changes? What is hypoxic encephalopathy? What happens in the heart? What happens in the lungs, which is called shock lung? Kidneys, adrenals. Adrenals are situated at the top of the kidney, superior pole of the kidney. So every system is getting disturbed. This is the overall picture. Multi-organ failure and what happens in a state of shock. Hypovolemic shock. This is what happens in hypovolemia. Preload and afterload. You should know what is preload, what is afterload. What is the total percentage of fluid? How do you calculate the percentage of burn? This is the formula, rule of 9. Dehydration develops. How does it happen? What are the consequences? In case of severe blood loss, what happens? Fluid shifting. What is fluid shifting and what? How do they attain their name? Get their name? Treatment. This is the anaphylactic shock. What happens? Hypersensitivity reaction, 4 types. You know this by your immunology knowledge. Sign and symptoms. What happens in each system after getting this shock? Hypersensitivity shock, anaphylactic shock. This is anaphylaxis diagrammatic representation to make you more clear. Management, you should know main words. This is today's topic. What happens, which is pneumothorax, pericarditis, effusion, tamponade. These terminologies, these pictures define these terms. Today we talked about this topic. Treatment, neurogenic shock, syncope, types of syncope, septic shock, diagram, toxic shock syndrome, treatment, drugs, and what is this. So are you clear with this topic, class? Boys are not giving me any response. Only girls are active. Okay. Okay class, with this we finish today's topic, and next Friday we will meet inshallah with the topic antiphospholipid antibody syndrome. This is again the topic given into your hemodynamics chapter, and it consists of 2 pages, but we will make it more clear by giving you more elaborative form. So please give a reading before coming to the lecture. Antiphospholipid antibody syndrome, next Friday at 10 a.m. Okay, with this I finish my lecture. Thank you very much for your cooperation and understanding. Allah Hafiz. Take care.